Hey everybody, we're still here at JAMstack Conf in San Francisco, and I'm talking to Ire. Ire, do you want to just give a brief introduction, who you are, why you're important, all that stuff?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Ire. I'm a front-end developer. I live in Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm very jet-lagged right now.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give you full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code DevChat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code DevChat at Sentry.io.
So I work at Buycoins, which is a cryptocurrency exchange for Africa. So we're kind of similar to Coinbase, but we're serving the Nigerian and soon-to-be African markets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I have about 1 million questions about that, but I'm totally going to skip them all. You gave a lightning talk here at JAMstack Conf. Do you want to just give us kind of the 2-minute elevator pitch on what that's about?
Okay, yeah. So, the title of my talk is really a mouthful. So I think it's Headless Chrome and Cloudinary for progressively enhanced dynamic content on the web.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to break it down?
Yeah. So basically, I was talking about a project I did. So I created an embed for Can I Use? So you can, on your website or blog or wherever, embed information from Can I Use? And I was thinking about how I could progressively enhance that because it's reliant on JavaScript.
Right.
So the idea I had was to use Puppeteer to get a screenshot of the embed and use Cloudinary to host that and serve that as like the fallback for if the embed never loads, if there's no JavaScript. So it's like creating that progressive enhancement for the dynamic content on the web. Yeah.
Right. Now, we have people at all stages of their careers. Do you want to just give a brief explanation of what progressive enhancement is?
Yeah, so progressive enhancement is basically the approach of building your websites, your web apps or whatever in a way that it works for as many different devices and browsers as possible. So instead of thinking like, okay, I'm going to build my site and I'm going to use React or something, when it's like a simple blog, for example.
Right.
Think about, okay, well, React might not work in everywhere, so where can I start with that provides the base experience for the most amount of people? And then if the person is visiting in a browser that can actually handle React, then maybe add that, but start from a point where you're providing an experience that works for everyone.
That makes sense. So yeah, essentially the idea is, you start with the base experience like you said, and then they get a nicer phone, they get on a little bit better network speed, things like that, where, it can handle a little bit more, then it just does more and more stuff. Yeah,
exactly. It's about like enhancing the experience, as it says, like in the name,
right?
Rather than starting from the end goal and then thinking, oh, how can I backtrack to make this work for other people? Because it's much harder to do it that way than to start from the base experience and improve up.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you have a basic experience that works, and then it piles stuff on top of it instead of trying to pull it all back off.
Exactly.
So you get these systems, and you said you essentially took a screenshot, and then you would just embed the image of the widget? Yeah.
Exactly.
So how does that work then? Because aren't people expecting the widgets to do things?
Yeah, so it's primarily meant to be like a fallback or So for example, the example I always give is that I use this on my blog very frequently, and I send my blog out as an email, as well as you can have it in the actual site. If you're using it in the email, the embed is not going to work there because JavaScript is not going to work in your email inbox. So for that person, they would see the image, but if you go and visit the site, then you would have the embed that's more interactive, and you can actually get more information.
Yep. And then you just use Cloudinary to make sure that it's the right size and resolution for whatever medium they're going to use.
Yeah, what's really cool about Cloudinary is that you can have many different like file formats, sizes, all of that. So I basically just upload the image to them and they handle all of that for me. And I can just say, what I actually do is use the picture element, which allows you to provide like as many different sources that you want. So I try WebP. If the browser doesn't support WebP, it will try a PNG or JPEG or just the regular image if the picture element isn't even supported. So it's a really nice way to try and provide the best experience for people in the browsers that can actually have that experience, and then also good experiences for people who are like using emails or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like in a lot of cases when we're doing our own web development, we're running on a really nice MacBook Pro or something like that, right? And so you don't even think about it, and then it's like, well, there are these people that live away from, the technological hubs that don't have that kind of access or can't afford a nice device or things like that. And so, yeah, they have a different experience. And you don't even see it because you don't have a machine that operates that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different, the people who develop the apps than the people who use the apps.
Right.
So I think being in Nigeria has sort of helped me see that more, especially because like when I found out that Opera Mini was a thing, for example, that was like a huge shock to me. And then I realized, oh wait, nobody is using like my $1,000+ MacBook Pro, like especially if I'm building a product for the vast majority of Nigerians. Most people use mobile devices anyway, and most people use more lower end mobile devices. That was kind of like a wake-up call for me to realize, oh wait, I can try and, if I'm building products for this market, I can't just be like building for my laptop because nobody else is using that laptop, it's just me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey folks, this is Charles Max Wood, and I just launched my book, The Max Coder's Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job. It's up on Amazon. We self-published it. I would love your support. If you want to go check it out, you can find it there, The Max Coder's Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job. Have a good one. Max out.
So how does this fit in with the idea of the JAMstack?
The JAMstack is really interesting because it's almost like it's trying to focus on providing the fastest experience, I think, because they move a lot of what used to be, I guess, client-side rendering. They try and move that to a build step.
Right.
So people using stuff like static site generators, whereas like in the blog example, instead of using like React for your blog, you could use something like, I don't know, Gatsby or something, where all of that building of the site itself happens before it's actually deployed. So at the end, what the user sees is just a static website, which is the best and probably the most performance for especially that type of content. So I think JAMstack is really interesting, and it's also really empowering for us as front-end developers because it just enables us to do so much more without having to deal with those back-end people.
Oh, the back-end people. Yeah, I've been one of those back-end people for a long time. But I mean, with our content site, right, for the podcast, we started out on WordPress and then moved into our own Ruby on Rails application, right? But then moved back to WordPress, and eventually it was, well, we kind of create the content once and then we don't ever update it, right? And so JAMstack made a lot of sense there. And then, like you said, right, then we can take that as the baseline experience and we can, okay, now we're going to add this feature on, we're going to add this other feature on, and, if you're on a device that doesn't support it, it just doesn't show up. Super cool. So if I wanted to do some of the things in your approach, how do I get started?
With progressive enhancement? That's a good question. I guess it really does depend on what exactly it is you're trying to build. But the way I see it is ultimately the best thing you can ship to the browser is like HTML and CSS, a little bit of JavaScript that isn't like dependent on, like the site isn't dependent on rather. So if you start from that like concept that the best thing that you can do is just ship plain HTML, CSS, then you can start to pile things on from there. So as much as possible, like see how you can get that shipped before you think about how to improve.
Yeah. Cool. Is there a place that people can go and see the example that you put together with Cloudinary and Puppeteer?
Yeah, so I wrote some articles about it. I'm probably going to do more because, as I mentioned in my talk, I recently, like from 3 a.m. this morning, decided to change almost everything. So, because I moved a bunch of things to Netlify functions. But what I would say is if you go to the repository, which is open source, so you can see what is there right now, it's just can I use embed, or if you go to caniuse.bitsofcode.de, that's the site where it's hosted, and then you can go to the repo and everything from there. And also like the blog itself, I'll probably write more about it, and you can just search there.
Cool.
Adventures in Angular is a devchat.tv production made in partnership with Hero Devs. Hero Devs is a group of Angular experts who can help your team code like true developer heroes. If your team needs an Angular expert, reach out to Aaron at hero.dev today.
And if people want to follow you online or see what you're working on these days, are you on Twitter and GitHub and places like that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I can try and spell it, it's just that it's really long. But it's Ire Aderinokun. That is my Twitter handle. It's also like my domain name, so that.com. Yeah, and if you go to the Can I Use website, you can probably trace me from there. So
sounds good. We have really good show notes, folks, so they can transcribe
cool.
that.
Yeah,
it'll be in the show notes.
Okay, good.
So yeah, folks, we'll make it easy. You can click it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. And is that your GitHub handle as well?
It's actually shorter. It's IREADE. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, I can remember that one.
Yeah. I should use that more often, but I don't know. I think I like to make it hard for people.
There you go. Make sure they really want it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming and talking to me for a few minutes. And
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'll encourage people to go check out your talk when they get them posted. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com to learn more.